My reading history collection is a collection of texts that show who I've been and who I am as a reader. These are not necessarily my favorite books, but these books do show what I understand from my reading and how that understanding influences and then helps to define my life. My parents read to me as a child, mostly at bedtime. I liked the SRA reading system in grade school, marking progress by progressing through the colors. It was like a contest. I knew the goal, I knew how to keep score, and I performed well. SRA taught me how to read fast, and I apologize if that offends anyone. Old Yeller is one of the first books I remember that I felt a passion for, even though it tore me up emotionally. I can still hear the voice of Travis and the baying and barking of Old Yeller. That soundtrack is part of what connects my heart and my mind to this book. Those soundtracks we create are what Tom Newkirk, a scholar who studies how we find understanding in our reading, it's what Newkirk calls auditorizing, and he finds that auditorizing is part of what creates a closer connection that leads to a deeper understanding of what we read. Of course, wrestling emotions through reading fiction became enthralling and addictive through high school and college, predictably incited by Thoreau, Emerson, Dreiser, the English Romantics, and others. On the Road was alluring to me, as it was to any high school or college kid in the 70s, but it is important to me because it's what caused me to try to learn more about an author, Kerouac, by reading all that he wrote. Good thinking precedes good writing, and I liked how Kerouac's life and his thinking, and therefore his writing, were intertwined. This schema, this synthesis of your new thinking from what we'll read this year with what you already think and know, is what Keene says creates a memorable emotional response within you, a response that may help you feel a passion to learn more about what you're reading. I like reference books, and I've used this one since high school. These are currently on my bedside table, along with a dictionary and an almanac. Blake said, "Great things happen when men and mountains meet, and adventure stories keep me up at night. Sometimes these stories haunt my daydreams and then inspire my travels or vacations, such as chasing Shackleton's ghost across the wind-blasted glaciers of South Georgia Island off the coast of Antarctica. I've read dozens of these books, often reading more and more deeply about adventures on a mountain or in a place until I'm finally done, or until I find myself there." For years I read business books, usually about people with interesting and successful new ideas. Some books, even going back to when I was a kid, are first editions, bought during a time when I needed to have that book just as soon as it came out. Some interests endure. This Tour de France book is about 20 years old. I'm still fascinated by the tour. It's not about the bike. Lance's story about his cancer battle is the only book I remember that our family of 5 very different people read almost simultaneously. Sharing books with family and friends is important, isn't it? I sang this song to our oldest child every night for years. He gets married a week from Saturday. I love the song and I wanted to learn all about it, but I never read this book. Maybe you have a book you haven't read. Fiction's connection to reality matters to me. I am part of these books, living, struggling, and feeling what Keene calls empathy for character, setting, and conflict, immersed in ideas and experiencing the aesthetic. I like to show my students the view of the glacier in Chamonix, France, where Frankenstein finds the monster. I want them to know they can see this glacier, feel the harsh chill in its remote mixture of ice and granite, all to help bring the value of Shelley's fiction into their life's reality, and so they come to understand that books are part of their English teacher's life outside of his classroom. My old books sit for a while on my bedside table, but I often no longer keep a book for long after I read it. We've cut way back on bookshelf space in our house, and I store books in the cellar or I pass them along through our town swap shop. I have found I can leave the book behind, but carry, and sometimes live, my understanding of its meaning for years and years.